So, have you ever been there? You start a new habit, a diet, a workout plan, maybe a new morning routine, and you're all in until you have one tiny slip up and the whole thing just falls apart. You're definitely not alone. Today, we're going to dive into the surprising science of why we all struggle with this, and more importantly, what actually works when it's time to start again. I absolutely love this idea because it just flips the script on everything we've been told about discipline. We have this image in our heads that success is about having this superhuman willpower, about never ever failing. But the real research tells a totally different story. The people who actually succeed aren't the ones who never miss a Monday workout. They're the ones who show up on Tuesday, especially after they've missed Monday. And that idea leads us right into our first big myth we need to bust, the willpower myth. For decades, we've been sold this story that success is all about self-control, about just grinding it out. But as we're about to see, that story is really starting to crumble under the weight of new science. So, that's the big question, right? If just muscling through with brute force isn't the key to building habits that actually stick, then what is? Well, the answer is way simpler and honestly a lot more powerful than you might think. This visual just nails the shift in thinking. You've got the old story on the left, which is basically this high-wire act where one little misstep means you're done for. But then, look at the new signs on the right. It paints a much more forgiving and realistic picture. It's not about being flawless. It's about having a safety net for when you inevitably stumble. The old theory was that willpower is like a muscle. You use it and it gets tired. But what if that's just the wrong metaphor entirely? Some fascinating newer research suggests it's less about a resource that runs out and more about the story you tell yourself. It turns out what you believe about your own self-control might be the single biggest factor. Okay, so if willpower isn't the bad guy we thought it was, then what is? Well, it's time to meet the real villain of this story. And here's a little hint. It's not the slice of cake you ate. It's not the workout you skipped. The real damage, the thing that derails us, happens in the moments after the slip-up. Psychologists actually have a name for this, and it is perfect. The what the hell effect. It's that voice in your head that says, well, I've already blown my diet for the day, so what the hell, I might as well eat the entire pizza, right? One tiny, minor lapse triggers this cascade, this spiral that ends in completely abandoning the goal. It's an incredibly common and destructive pattern. So how does this shame spiral actually work? Let's break it down. It all starts with one small thing, a single lapse. But that initial feeling of guilt, it quickly turns into something much nastier. Harsh self-criticism. We start asking, what's wrong with me? From there, that all or nothing thinking kicks in. Well, I've ruined the whole week anyway. And from that point, it's a very short leap to just giving up completely. And this right here, this is the absolute key to understanding why this happens. It's the difference between guilt and shame. See, guilt focuses on an action. I did a bad thing. That can actually be productive. But shame focuses on your identity. I am a bad thing. It whispers, I'm a failure. And that right there is where good habits go to die. Shame is the fuel for the what the hell effect. Okay, so if shame is the villain, then who's the hero? Well, that brings us to the forgiveness advantage. We're about to look at the surprising science-backed power of self-compassion, which it turns out is a way better motivator than being hard on yourself. And let's be really clear here, self-compassion is not about letting yourself off the hook or making excuses. It's a practical, learnable skill. It's about treating yourself with the exact same kindness and understanding you'd give to a good friend when they stumble. It's about recognizing that struggle is a totally universal part of being human. Researcher Kristen Neff actually gives us a great framework for this. It breaks down into 3 simple ideas. First, mindfulness, just noticing how you're feeling without piling on judgment. Second, common humanity, remembering that everyone messes up. This isn't just a you problem. And finally, self-kindness, making the active choice to comfort yourself instead of criticizing yourself. So let's get into the brain science of why this actually works. Habits are built on a really simple loop in your brain. There's a cue, then a behavior, then a reward. Think of it like this. Your 3 p.m. energy slump is the cue, eating a cookie is the behavior, and the sugar rush is the reward. Well, when you spiral into shame after a slip-up, you basically shatter that reward system. Self-forgiveness acts like the glue that holds that loop together, so it's ready to go for you tomorrow. All right, so we've covered the why. Now it's time to get into the how. This next section is all about practical, actionable tools you can use the moment you slip up to stop a spiral dead in its tracks and reset fast. Think of this as your emergency reset button. Forget about punishment. First, just hydrate. Drink a big glass of water. It resets your whole system. Then, move your body, but gently. Even a short walk can clear your head and break that negative mental loop. Next, eat a normal, balanced meal. Don't skip it. This stabilizes your blood sugar and your mood. And finally, make sleep a priority. Each one of these steps sends a powerful signal to your brain. The spiral is over and we're back on track. And speaking of sleep, since it is the ultimate recovery tool, here's a simple but incredibly powerful rule you can try. The 10-3-2-1-0 rule. It's super easy to remember. 10 hours before bed, no more caffeine. 3 hours before, no more big meals or alcohol. 2 hours, stop working. 1 hour, no more screens. And in the morning, 0, as in 0 hits on the snooze button. It is a total game changer for building resilience. Now, to build momentum proactively, you can use this brilliant formula from researcher BJ Fogg. The idea is to anchor a new, tiny habit to a routine you already have. For example, after I brush my teeth, I will do 2 push-ups. Or after I pour my morning coffee, I will write 1 sentence in my journal. The key is it makes starting so ridiculously easy that you can't say no. Okay, and for those moments when an impulse or a craving just feels overwhelming, there's this amazing technique called urge surfing. The idea is, instead of fighting a craving, you just observe it with curiosity. You treat it like an ocean wave. You notice it coming, you feel it swell, and you just ride it out knowing that eventually it will pass. And you know what? Most urges disappear in just a few minutes if you don't feed them. So when you put all these tools together, they all point to one huge shift in mindset. Moving away from a goal of perfection and toward a commitment to practice. It's really about building a new identity for yourself, one that's rooted in resilience. Let's get this straight. Success is not about having a perfect, unbroken streak. Real, lasting change comes from mastering the messy, unglamorous, but incredibly powerful skill of just getting back on track again and again and again. This quote just says it all, doesn't it? What we see as amazing discipline in other people is usually just a well-practiced habit of recovering from setbacks quickly, without all the drama and self-blame. They miss Monday sometimes, but they always show up on Tuesday. That's the real secret. So, this all brings us back to you, and a question to think about. The old story says you fail because you're just not disciplined enough. But the science suggests you fail because your recovery plan is built on shame. So, what's the new story? What's the more compassionate and way more effective story you're going to start telling yourself? I want to leave you with this one last thought to really chew on. Just imagine. Imagine what you could have built by now if every time you slipped up, you treated it like a rainy day. Just a temporary condition you have to navigate, not a final verdict on your character. What could you achieve then? That simple shift in perspective, it might just be the most important habit you ever build.